Good day, hardworking grade 10 students. Welcome to our new journey in learning the English language. Before anything else, a big congratulations once again for accomplishing our previous activities. Now, let me give you the reminders. Write your answers on a sheet of paper. Don't forget to write your name on your paper. Always visit your FB group to check on announcements. Don't hesitate to post your questions in the FB group or simply chat your subject teacher. Before we start, let us first have a review. Just identify what are described by the following statements. You have 5 seconds to answer the questions. Let's get started. Question number 1. It is a traditional text that needs to be read from beginning to end to make sense of the text. What is it? Let us see if your answers are correct. You got it right. The answer is linear or linear text. Next question. It is a text that makes reading easier through the use of visual aids. What is it? Did you get the correct answer? Let us see. You got it right again. The answer is nonlinear or nonlinear text. Next question. It is a tool that helps visualize the order of steps of a process or a timeline of events. What is it? Let me see your answers. You're right again. The answer is flowchart. Next question. Another graphic organizer that helps you visually represent a comparison of differences and similarities between two subjects. What is it? Let us see if your answers are correct. Very good. You got it right again. The answer is Venn diagram. Next question. This chart is mostly used to show proportional data, usually using the percentages next to or on the slice. What is it? Let us see if your answers are correct. Very good. The answer is pie chart. And for our last question, it is a collection of imagery, charts, and minimal text that gives an easy to understand overview of a topic. What is it? Let us see if your answers are correct. Very good. You got it all correct. Great job. You are now ready for a new lesson. Here are the objectives of this lesson. Differentiate plot, setting, and characterization. Identify author's purpose. Learning task number 1. Study the pictures below, then identify the characters, plot, and setting of the story. Analyze who are the characters in the pictures that you have seen. And tell where is the setting of the story, and then you have to give the plot of this story. Supplemental activity number 1. Give yourself a try. Create a list of the following: the characters, setting, and plot using the illustration provided in your activity sheet. You may rely on the movies you have watched or stories you have read already. Here is the pattern that you have to fill in. You have to give the title of the movie and then who are the main characters. You also have to give the settings of the movie and then you deliver or write in one sentence the plot of the story. Supplemental activity number 2. Where's and why's. Share your experiences about the following events in your life. Tell where you experienced the event and why do you think you experienced those events. In this activity, you have to share your most embarrassing moment, your first achievement, worst disappointment, a lovely day of your life, and sense of belongingness. You also have to share the places and the reasons why those events had happened. Learning task number 2. You have to match the items in column A with the items in column B. You also have to write the letters of your answers on a sheet of paper. Here are the items that you have to match with the items here in column B. Before writing your answers on your paper, make sure that you have analyzed carefully the items that are presented. Learning task number 3. If you have watched the movie entitled Train to Busan, you may refer to that movie in answering the questions provided in your module. If not, or if you have not watched the movie Train to Busan, you may also use any movie that you have watched before or a story that you have read. Then answer the questions that follow. Write your answers on a sheet of paper. Here are the questions for learning task number 3. Who are the main characters of the story? What is the setting of the story? Using a story map, explain the plot of the story. You have to give the exposition, the conflict, the climax, and the resolution of the story. And for the last question, what are the social conditions portrayed in the story? Let us begin discussing our topic for today. Let us start with characterization. A character or the characters refer to persons, creatures, or things serving as actors or movers in a story. They portray specific roles with corresponding dialogues and plot lines. Stories have protagonists and antagonists. The characters give life to the story by portraying necessary actions and delivering lines needed to build the story. There are two main types of characters. We have the protagonist, who is the positive character in the story and usually acts as the main character. Then, we have the protagonist, who serves as the negative character who also usually deliver the protagonist's problem in the story. Now, what is characterization? Characterization is a writer's tool or literary device that occurs anytime the author uses details to teach us about a person. This is used over the course of a story in order to tell the tale. Let's figure it out from the example below. In the Harry Potter stories, Dobby refers to Potter as the noble Harry Potter or good Harry Potter. When we say characterization, it is a description of the most typical or important qualities of the characters. From the example I have given you a while ago, from the way Harry was delivered by Toby in the example, we can say that he has a positive characterization. let us discuss the plot. The plot shows how the author arranges events to develop the basic idea. There are 5 essential parts of a plot, and this plot is best illustrated through this mountain. How it happens? Here's how a mountain represents each part of a plot. Imagine you are a mountaineer and you are to climb up this mountain. Of course, you will start from the feet of the mountain. This part represents the exposition, and as you are climbing up, this portion represents the rising action. Then, the peak of the mountain represents the climax. As you continue climbing up in this hill, you are reaching the hardest part. The same thing goes in the story. After reaching the peak, it is time for you to go home now. As you are going down in this part represents the falling action. And lastly, you will reach the other part of the mountain. You can say that your climbing journey is already done. This part represents the resolution. It only means that all story has its end. Let us now discuss each part of the plot. First one, exposition. It is the introduction or the beginning of the story. It presents or describes how the story started. Next part, rising action. The rising action normally begins with an inciting incident or a moment that sets your story into action. As it progresses, you'll have multiple moments of conflict that escalate and create tension as the story moves toward the climax. The rising action is the part of the story where the conflict arises or starts. What is conflict? It can be any form of struggle that main character faces. There may be only one central struggle, or there may be many minor obstacles within a dominant struggle. When we say conflict, it is the problem in the story. There are different kinds of conflict. First is character versus self. The character struggles with own soul, physical limitations, and choices. The character may have a fear inside him, or there may be different factors that hinders him to pursue in the story. Next is external conflict. The character struggles with a force outside oneself. Now, in this conflict, there are different forces that hinders the character to continue or do his job in the story. There are different types of external conflict. The first one is character versus character. In this conflict, the character struggles against the other people or the other character, just like Tom and Jerry. Next, character versus nature. In this conflict, the character struggles against animals, weather, environment, and any other things that are related to nature. Just like what had happened to Titanic, wherein the ship sank as it struck a glacier. Next is character versus society. In this conflict, the character struggles against ideas, practices, or customs of others. Just like the story of Katniss Everdeen. She is against the practices that is happening in the Hunger Games. Now, let us move on to the other parts of the plot. Let us go back to these parts. Third part of a plot is climax. It is the turning point of the story. It is where the readers wonder what will happen next. Will the conflict be resolved or not? In this part of the story, the problem have already happened or arises. In this part, the protagonist and the antagonist may have been clashing to one another. Next part, falling action. It is where the resolution begins. Events and complications start to fall into place. These are the events between climax and denouement. This is the part where the problem starts to be solved. Last is resolution. It is the conclusion of the story, or simply the end of the story, also called denouement. It is the final outcome of the events in the story. In this part of the story, everything is explained. The result of everything that had happened is presented in it. Now let us discuss the setting. Setting refers to the time and location when and where a story takes place. For some stories, the setting is very important, but for others, it is not. There are different aspects to identify setting. First is place. It refers to the geographical location. Where is the action of the story taking place? Or simply, where do the story happen? Is it in a farm, in a castle, or in a school, or any place where a story took place? Next is time. It is the historical period, time of day, year, or etc. When is the story taking place? Next is weather conditions. We have to answer the question, is it rainy, sunny, stormy, or what? What is the weather of the story? Or there could be different weather conditions inside the story. Next, number 4, social conditions. What is the daily life of the characters like? Does the story contain local color? Writing that focuses on the speech, dress, mannerisms, customs, etc. of a particular place? In identifying social conditions, you have to look for things that represent a particular place. Like if you have watched the movie Train to Busan, what particular things used or done by the characters that represent Korea? Next is mood or atmosphere. It is the emotion you felt at the beginning of the story. What feeling is created at the beginning of the story? Or what emotions have you felt after reading the beginning of the story? Did you feel so excited? Or sad? Or afraid? Or angry? What did you felt? That is the mood or atmosphere of the story. Now, here are the other activities that you have to work on for week number 3. Learning task number 4. If you have watched the movie entitled Tangled, you may refer to that movie in answering the questions provided in your module. If not, you may also use any movie that you have watched or story that you have read. Then answer the questions that follow. Write your answers on a sheet of paper. Here are the questions for learning task number 4. Number 1, who are the main characters of the story? 2, what is the setting of the story? 3, using a story map, explain again the plot of the story by giving the exposition, the conflict, climax, and resolution. And number 4, what social conditions are portrayed in the story? Learning task number 5. Identify what is asked in each item. Write the letters of your answers in your activity sheet or on a sheet of paper. Question number 1. Characterization is: just choose the correct answer and write the letter of your answer. 2. The setting of the story may best be defined as what? 3. What it is called when a reader has to infer what the character is like based on what he says, thinks, or does. Number 4. What is the meaning of the term plot? Next, number 5. Which of the following statements is the best climax definition? Don't forget to write the answers or only the letters of your answers. For your reflection, complete the following prompts. I understand that, and I realized that. Thank you so much for listening. Until our next journey to learning English. God bless!